Hello, welcome to Spotlight, a warm glow of creativity.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening, we hear how a new fund for extraordinary projects has been launched by the Arts Council, how the Air and Arts Centre is gearing up for its autumn schedule and preparing for this year's Jazz Festival, and a game to change the world. Stay tuned. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you might be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to, you know it, put in the spotlight. Poetic, theatrical, musical, literary, ceramic, sculpture, drag. All the rest, or more perhaps. You can add to the list, get in touch with me. Spotlight at manxradio.com, Howard Kane at manxradio.com if you prefer, Kane with an E. I read them both. It'd be lovely to hear from you, and it'd be great to feature you on the programme if you're doing something artistic. So we often chat to our friends at the Arts Council, backers of this very show, of course, about the various funding streams for various artistic projects that they provide for, underwriting plays, backing new artists, funding artworks, new collections of poetry perhaps, student aid, films, the list goes on and on. However, a new extraordinary events fund has been launched to help celebrate a significant anniversary for the council. Intrigued? Well, Arts Development Officer Martin Kane and Project Coordinator Susie Walker told me more.
The Arts Council is celebrating its 60th anniversary next year in 2025, and as part of those celebrations we're doing quite a lot of really exciting things, and one of them is our Extraordinary Events Fund.
So what is the fund? What's it all about?
So the fund is, it's for people to come to us with new ideas for events, basically something that's not happened here before, or a new take on something that might have happened here before, maybe events that have been put into new spaces, new areas, new parts of the island that don't usually get sort of big events put into. It's a fund that is £100,000 in total, so yeah, people can apply to us. It's probably worth maybe explaining how Arts Council do events at the moment, and how this fund is different from what is already done.
Because thinking that, because obviously we've often spoken on Spotlight that there's sort of funding throughout the year, where there's various funding rounds for projects, whether they're books or underwritings, but this is specifically ring-fenced and a different fund.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So this is basically an additional source of funding. What happens at the moment is that if you have an event that you want to put on and you charge tickets for the event, Arts Council's mechanism for this is called an underwrite. You would say, well, it's going to cost me £2,000 to put the event on, but I actually think I'm only going to sell £1,000 worth of tickets, so I'm going to make £1,000 loss. And what Arts Council do at the moment is that they say, well, they will underwrite the event to that £1,000. So you can put the event on and you don't lose any money. You don't make any, but you don't lose any. What we've decided to do for this 60th anniversary in this extraordinary event fund is treat it more like a grant. So you can say, my event is going to cost £2,000, and you can apply for all of the costs of the event. And then when you sell your tickets, you keep the money, you keep the ticket money. And the idea being that you will then reinvest that back into maybe the same event the following year, or a new version of the event, or something else creative to benefit the island.
Is it then, are we talking specifically events, or we're talking events and or sort of projects?
Yeah, we're talking events and or projects really. What we're looking for is something really new, really exciting, something that people haven't really been able to do because it's too much of a risk in the past. So taking creative or cultural risks is so important for the Isle of Man, just because it means that creativity and culture are always growing and changing, and that's really what we want to see, is new ideas in new places, increasing public accessibility and getting more people involved in the wonderful world of the arts.
Is it open to anyone then? And someone thinking here who, and obviously it's a very artistic place, there are lots of people who are forever doing various shows or bringing out poetry books and such like. I mean, if they've applied, say, before in the past, they've had a grant help from the funding from the Arts Council in years gone by, they'd still be eligible to apply for this?
Yeah, absolutely. So the only thing that we encourage is that it's not a kind of business as usual event. So if you usually put a play on, then if you apply to this, try make it something that isn't what you would normally put on. The good thing is that you can apply to this, but then the usual underwrite is still available for you to do what you would usually do. It's just if you've always thought, I'd love to take this in this direction, or I'm doing this at the moment, but actually I've always wanted to make a bigger version or something, this fund now will give you the opportunity to be able to do that.
And then again, you mentioned there it's a 100k fund. Is it sort of being divided into specific amounts of sort of 10 times 10 or 5 times 20, whatever the case may be, or is there no set limit to any amount that someone could apply for?
Oh, you can apply for any amount for what you need to run your really exciting, extraordinary event or project. They are going to tier the funds, just so when you apply, you will need to give a little bit more evidence for how big your fund, how much money you are applying for. So if you apply for over £10,000, the council really want you to come in and pitch your idea to them. They'd love to meet you face to face. And we're also linking it back to our national development strategy for arts and culture, which we have co-created with Culture Vannin. So you need to link that into our ambitions within the national strategy, just to make sure that we're all moving in the same direction and all pulling together to make brilliant events for the Isle of Man.
Okay, so $1 million question or £100,000 question, I guess, is how do people listening to this thinking, yeah, I wouldn't mind to see if I could get a slice of that, a project in mind, would they go about actually applying?
The way that people can apply for funding is that there is an application form on our website. You'll be able to go to iomarts.com. In our funding section, you'll see the extraordinary events there. There is guidelines and things attached to the form that you can read through. Anyone can always either call into the office, we're in the Villa Marina Arcade, or they can drop us a line via the website to arrange meetings. If you want to discuss what your idea is for your event and how it might fit in with this fund.
2 rounds of funding, I believe, or sort of 2. So there's one chunk sort of coming up fairly imminently in October, and then another one beginning of next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So because these events can take place, will only take place, for the whole of next year during Council's 60th anniversary. We have 2 funding rounds. So one is going to close on the 18th of October, and then the next one will be at the start of next year. So it'll be the 17th of January, and we'll have a series of kind of meet the team events over between now and the January deadline, where you can come and have a chat with the team, which we'll put out on our website in sort of due course as well.
And as you hinted at there, I think, so if anyone putting in for it, say they're wanting to bring out a book or put on a show or whatever the case may be, this would need to take place in 2025.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and so just with like things like that as well, with the with events and projects, the project. So as you sort of say, if anyone wants to bring out a book, the sort of kind of theme of this fund really is that there'd have to be some sort of like community involvement with it too. So something like releasing a book would be a normal grant fund. Something like an extraordinary events version of that is if you had a really like cool way of doing a book launch that engaged the community in it.
Okie dokie. So just give us those times again. Anyone listening, what are the cut-off times if they're thinking, yes, I wouldn't mind, I've got something in mind which I think would tick these boxes and fall into a wonderful way of celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Isle of Man Arts Council. How do they go about it again? Just give us a reminder again on those time limits.
So the applications are open now. Visit the Arts Council's website, or you can go via Facebook or Instagram, those places too. You'll be able to find links to it. The deadlines for those are Friday the 18th of October and Friday the 17th of January.
So have you got a project you think might fit the bill? Something which would be a little out of the ordinary and have good community involvement? If so, don't hang around. That first cut-off date is only just a month away, so get applying. Though, of course, if it's really impossible, as you heard there is another chance early next year. All the details online. Check it out. Try it out. Who knows what it might yield.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
We spoke to the wonderful Manx Wildlife Trust Biosphere Artist-in-Residence, Ali Hodgson, a little while back here on Spotlight as she heads towards the end of her residency and prepares to hand the reins, or should that be brushes, over to her successor. Any keen listeners might remember one of the projects she mentioned was a game she'd devised, reimagining our biosphere. Well, she's now showcasing the results of the game's first wave of release and dropped by to tell me more, and started by saying she couldn't believe how fast the year had gone for her.
Yes, absolutely. It's flown by. It's been the quickest year ever. But what an amazing experience as well. I'm extremely grateful to Manx Wildlife Trust and UNESCO Biosphere Isle of Man for running the programme. In particular, Lee Morris for starting it and Graham Makepeace-Warren for holding the space for the past year, and also, of course, the Arts Council. I think it's amazing that this programme exists on the Isle of Man. There's not many other people doing it. And what an amazing way to engage with public and help organisations get their strategy out in the world, and also fantastic for us artists as well. So I'm extremely grateful.
Now, the last time we spoke, we mentioned a game as one of the projects, one of the many things you've done through your year as artist in residence was a game entitled Reimagining Our Biosphere. And you've been running this sort of through the year. First off, perhaps tell us a little bit more about the game. What was it? How did you come up with the idea? What did it actually involve?
Yeah, so games are something I'm really passionate about. I think a lot of the challenges that we face in our world today are very complex. I think they're kind of these difficult challenges that are moving and don't necessarily have one-size-fits-all solutions to them. And a kind of reaction to that can be things like overwhelm or people just shutting down to these issues, particularly in the environmental sectors. It can cause anxiety, compartmentalisation. And one of the things that I've discovered through experience is that games are a really great way of engaging with complex subject matter. They're very engaging, they're fun, they relax us, they help us open up to our creative and collaborative capacities. So that was something right at the start of the residency that I knew that I wanted to play with. I didn't know quite how it was going to evolve. But it evolved into this Reimagining Our Biosphere project, and it was my attempt at bringing together the biosphere. So the biosphere to me is very much about our human and our ecological systems, and bringing those two things together into harmony. So it's been an amazing journey, and it's still a project that is evolving and will live beyond the residency, and it's certainly galloping along at full speed at the moment. But I'm really interested to see where it's going to go next.
So how did you actually, or how does it play out the game actively? Have you been playing this sort of in schools or educational outlets or with members of the public, or how does this sort of the game actually work practically?
Yeah, so one of the exciting things about it is that it's very customizable and usable in different situations. So I launched it back in May earlier this year, and I've had a very busy few months playing it in all kinds of different situations. So I think I've played it with over 500 people on the island now, and it's been very much everything from families and children right through to adults. And at the moment I'm in the process of organising events with policymakers and businesses to use the game to bring them together as well. So it's kind of the whole range, and I kind of designed it so that it could be something that's very much like a light touch public engagement tool at events, and just getting people to kind of open up and think about things a little bit differently, but also very much a tool that can be used with closed groups of people to really drill down and explore different topics within our biosphere. So it's very customizable, and I basically what I did is I designed this giant game mat. It's absolutely massive in its current form, and it's got these 12 topics around the outside of it, and the aim of the game is to engage with these topics in different creative ways. So I've got all kinds of different props, giant dice, different coloured cards for people to write on, string, whatever it takes to get people talking, and most importantly connecting things. So it's not about individual topics, but how do these topics relate with each other as well, and opening up conversation for people to explore that.
And now I know you're looking to sort of showcase the results of the first wave of the game's release, as you were saying. And well, what have these results shown? And they've been encouraging, or what are the results you've seen so far? Yeah,
I mean, there's been so much input into the game. It's hard to summarise in a short response, but just so much passion that people have here for our island and what they want to see in the future. And for, I guess, the happiness of both the planet and the people that live here as well. And I've been amazed at the creativity as well. I've had people wanting to design new technologies right through to just wanting more community and more connection and more collaboration. So it's been such a huge range. But my plan is to have an exhibition soon at the Santander Work Cafe in Douglas. And I'm going to be showcasing a lot of the responses that I've got. Alongside the game, another way that I've been getting people to engage is through something that I've called the Biodiversity Creation Station. So I've been showing people our different Manx species of plants and animals and getting them to create models of them and then using them in different ways with the game board. So that's another sort of side to the project that I'll be bringing into the exhibition as well. So I've got all these amazing colourful creations and ideas and creativity from people, and I've put them all together in this exhibition in a way that I hope does them justice.
Do we have a time for the exhibition yet, or is it still work in progress?
Yeah, so that will be running from the 16th of September to the 20th of September. So it's during working hours during that week at the Santander Work Cafe. And it's just on the ground floor there. So if you walk into the building, you'll see the colour. And alongside that, I'm actually doing a drop-in game session for anyone who's interested. And that will be on the 18th of September, on the Thursday, I believe. And I'll be there 2 o'clock till 5 o'clock p.m. So again, you won't be able to miss me. I'll be standing next to the giant game board in the middle of the cafe. So do pop over and have a chat if you're passing through.
Have you been encouraged with the results you've had so far? Because we hear a lot of talk about the biosphere and environmental crisis and global warming and such like. Do you think people are engaging with these topics now and wanting, A, taking them seriously, and perhaps B, feeling that they want to do something about it in their own way? Yeah,
for me, I think it's been... What I've really enjoyed is the whole range of things that people have brought to the table. So right through to people that are really, they feel they know exactly what they want and what they want to see on the island and what they want to do in response to some of our human and ecological challenges that we face. But right through to the other end, of people that are just feeling quite overwhelmed actually with some of these topics. And what I've really enjoyed about the game is that it's just created a space to sit and hold space for these people to share and to meet them where they're at. I think a lot of the time people just want to be listened to and heard, and it's from that place that the conversations can start to open up and collaboration and creativity can start to step in. But also just having the opportunity to challenge people on their ideas as well. And I think not in a confrontational way, but through play, through gamification. And I think that's another way that games can be a really powerful tool, is that you get to put your serious self aside for a bit and just explore topics in a playful way, and that does open up room for conversation and looking at things differently and thinking about things differently, and watching the game almost take on a life of its own. People starting to create their own rules and collaborating with total strangers has been really magical to watch. Or people that are potentially quite passionate about green issues then interacting with people that aren't necessarily, and then watching those conversations develop has been really fascinating. So I think as a tool for bringing people together and opening up those important conversations, which aren't always easy, has been really interesting to watch.
Gamification, that's a great word. I love it. There was talk about the influence of the game and its sort of impact extending beyond the boundaries of the Isle of Man, going a bit further. Do you think that's the case?
Yeah, it's again, it's kind of run off with itself, and I'm just trying to catch up with it. So there's been a lot of interest in other places as well. It seems like it's almost caught a bit of a zeitgeist, I think, in that, again, it's dealing with these complex issues that we all face in all parts of the world, and how can we find new ways of exploring these issues and, again, collaborate and be creative around these challenges. So there's been, I've literally just got back from Jersey at the Inter-Island environmental meeting, so I was presenting the game there for Manx Wildlife Trust, which was brilliant. And I've got a whole string of other events across in the UK and things bubbling and further afield as well. So I'm excited to see where this goes, but also it's fantastic to use the Isle of Man as a showcase. I think there's something very interesting about living on an island, I think, where people can really visualise the boundaries and the borders of where we live, and in some ways that makes it feel more manageable, I think, and there's room, I think, for a lot of opportunity here to move things quite quickly as well, because we have less systems to get through, less hurdles to jump through. So whenever I've talked about the Isle of Man and what we have going on here outside of the island, I think people are very interested and excited by the potential of what we have here.
And you mentioned, and we mentioned at the beginning of this chat, that you're coming towards the end of your residency, but you say you're very excited about what's next. So what is next for Ali, the artist, the game, and everything else?
Yeah, so many things. So I'm still very much connected to Manx Wildlife Trust, and my role there is continually evolving. And I'm kind of really in awe of the team there and the work that they do and the passion that they have. So being able to continue to support them in different ways is really important to me. But also with the game. There's lots of projects. I can't speak too much about them yet because they're not quite ready to pop. But
like a secret.
Absolutely, yeah. But lots of game stuff happening in the future, I think, as well. And for me as well, just as a kind of social designer and graphic artist, to again, I love that word gamification as well. Is what challenges do we have as an island? What tools do we have, and how can we use design to enhance those tools so that more people can access them, more people can start to explore our challenges in different ways. And I think for me, that's where design can play a really important role in the future.
Let's hope her gamification plans pay dividends, and we might hear more about the impact of reimagining our biosphere in months to come. Also, of course, we look forward to speaking to Ali's successor as Biosphere Artist in Residence, and wish Ali all the best in all her future plans. Finally this week, we head south to the gem of artistic endeavours of all kinds, the Erin Arts Centre, gearing up for their autumn schedule after a short holiday with films, pianos and jazz. I called by to see the artistic director Pip Rolfe, and we sat in the green room. He told me more.
We had a little hiatus a couple of weeks in August, well-earned break, but we've really hit the ground running. So September, we've got plenty of events on. You guys were the first. We've been hosting the Russian parish concerts, but you guys were our first kind of big live show.
Yay!
Absolutely. But we're starting with the midweek movie series again this week, and coming up we have the piano series, and then at the beginning of October, the Port Erin Jazz Festival.
Ah, yes. Excellent. So tell us a bit more about that.
It's Friday and Saturday, 4th and 5th of October. Here on Friday night, we have John Coughlin, the legendary ex-drummer of Status Quo. Yeah. And he's basically taking a fresh look at some of the old Quo numbers through, let's say, a jazz prism. Yeah, exactly. So instead of kind of loud guitars, we have a stand-up bass, drums, keys, and out front, interpreting the vocal parts, a fabulous jazz violinist called Ben Holder. And the whole thing is kind of presented by John, and I guess with some anecdotes. Well, you would hope, wouldn't you?
I would have, so yeah, you should have plenty of those.
So yeah, and also obviously he was a Manx resident at some point.
Quite a few years, yeah.
And they are supported by the Blue Train Big Band. I think they've booked pretty much Blue Train. They are the customary support of the Friday night now. They're the opening act for the Port Erin Jazz Festival, and they're always great fun. Hawaiian shirts, big band interpretations, and just great musicianship. So that's the Friday, and then on Saturday we have the finest local jazz talent flexing their tunes at the Bay, the Bay, Port Erin, and the Falcon. So they'll be playing all through the afternoon. Now, the only two bands I can remember offhand are Blue Vannon and various incarnations of, and Amore. But we used to have like Heinrich Maneuver, and I think Mood Indigo, Lauren's band, are playing. So that's free. So anyone can come along. They normally get going about 2 o'clock and sort of go through until everybody finishes, really, and then tip up here for Saturday night. And Saturday night is a band that you have seen, and they went down so well that we wanted them back. And that was the Harvey O'Higgins project.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, I did see them last year, I think.
Now, I mean, I think they closed Manannan Festival. It was a couple of years ago, and they're just such an excellent band. So Graham Harvey on piano, Dave O'Higgins on sax, Jeremy Brown and Matt Skelton bass and drums. They've been together for years, and they kind of, how do you describe them, Howard? I suppose they're a hard bop quartet.
Yeah, I'd call it sort of a modern jazz or post-bop style, definitely, yeah.
And they do a mixture of standards and their own compositions, but it all just flows together really well. And you say they know each other so well. They're really a fantastic live band. Great tone, real sort of sweetness, good tough rhythms, and
it was really good.
Yeah,
really good. Yeah, that was a cracking night, that one. Oh, it sounds good stuff then.
So if you've not seen them, I think the John Coghlan, because John is such a popular figure, and who doesn't want to see something to do with Quo on the Isle of Man? But I would really urge people to come and see Harvey O'Higgins as well, just because, that they are such a great band. And they will be supported by Blue Vannin or some incarnation of.
Marvellous. So it's becoming quite a fixture, the Jazz Festival now.
Yeah, I think this is number 4 now. Now, this year, I would like to say a big thanks to Ramsey Crookle and also to Bushies for generously supporting the festival, because we really couldn't do without that. It's only 2 days, so we don't have a massive chance to raise loads of cash on the premises. But with all the airfares and accommodation and fees that bringing bands over for a 2-day thing kind of racks up, it's really, really important that we get that support, and we're extremely grateful for it.
Annoyingly, I'm going to miss the fascination which is Status Quo meets Jazz Night. Don't let that happen to you, though. Get yourself a ticket and support jazz in the South, and we'll hear more from Pip about the piano series here on Spotlight next week. That's pretty much it this week. Don't forget, if you want to hear anything again, go to maxradio.com, download the Spotlight podcast, listen where and when you want. Why not try it whilst preparing for an Indian summer on a Manx beach? Perhaps. See you next week. Until then, look after yourselves, and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Emo.